I'm Andy with Competitive Cyclist, and this is my shootout of two of the gold standards in road pedals, the Wahoo Speedplay Zero and Shimano's Ultegra R8000. In my experience, pedals are kind of like religion for cyclists. We usually choose a path early on and never deviate from it. That's not to say we don't dabble in other faiths. For example, I started out on time and migrated to Speedplay before ending up on Shimano in the early 2000s. I've never really ridden Look, but I've got friends that haven't touched anything else for 30 years. Your pedals are the most important touch point on the bike, so it's important to choose wisely. We've got two mid-price offerings from those big three here, the Wahoo Speedplay Zero and the latest version of Shimano's Ultegra road pedal. Both can be had for around $200, and while you might think, pedal's a pedal, they actually couldn't be more different. The first thing you notice about the Wahoo Speedplay Zero is that it's more cleat than pedal. In simple terms, what I mean is that the part of the system that attaches to your bike is small and minimal, while the other half of this pedal system, the cleat that attaches to your shoe, is kind of massive when compared to the competition. In this case, it appears that bigger kind of means better from an adjustability and functionality standpoint. The larger cleat interface allows the Zero to do more, a lot more, than the plastic triangle you bolt onto your shoe for Shimano. For starters, you get dual-sided entry with the Zeros, meaning you can clip into either side of the pedal, making this kind of a no-brainer for new riders. Even better, there's also a low-tension cleat option if the standard tension is too difficult to get into and out of. You also get a much wider range of float adjustment, which is a measurement of how much your heel can sway from side to side as you pedal. The Zeros can deliver up to 15 degrees of float, which can be fantastic for folks who might be nursing a knee or hip injury and need more or less mobility of the knee and ankle joints while pedaling. Another fantastic feature of this cleat system is the insanely low stack height. The Zero has gone to great lengths to decrease the amount of material between your shoe and the pedal spindle in order to provide a solid connection for more fluid transfer of power with every pedal stroke. And because the pedal is minimal and tucks into the cleat so well, you get the best cornering clearance in the business. By comparison, Shimano's R8000 Ultegra pedals are more like a traditional clipless road pedal with one-sided entry and a light and minimal delta-shaped cleat, which also determines the amount of float you get, up to 6 degrees with the yellow set that's included. You can also get 3 degrees or 0 degrees, but these are both achieved by installing a separate set of cleats. However, unlike the Zeros, these have onboard cleat tension adjustment if you want to make them easier to get in and out of. And when you put the Ultegras side by side with the Zeros, you can see what appears to be a massive difference in the pedaling platform, which Shimano says increases the contact point with your foot in order to maximize all-day comfort. And here's where I have to pull back the curtain a little, or break the fourth wall, as they say in show business. You see, when I'm writing these reviews, I try to put myself in the shoes of the person who's shopping with us and may be on the fence between the two things I'm comparing. I try to think about where they are on their journey as a cyclist and try to see things from their perspective, which can be tough because I'm kind of a grizzled old veteran who hasn't shopped for upgrades in a long, long time. So here's where I'll start. These pedals, both of them, are simultaneously great pedals for beginners and a killer upgrade for someone who may currently have something more entry level. But what's even better is that once you upgrade to either one, you can kind of stop because the dollars to performance ratio on the next model up in either line just doesn't make sense. The Speedplay Nano is like $200 more, and the Dura Ace version of these pedals are $80 more for not too many more gains. Okay, now that we've established these two as a benchmark for road pedals, let's talk about my impressions from the last few months of use and why I'd choose one or the other. It was interesting getting back on Speedplay after 20 years on Shimano. One interesting quirk is that Speedplay cleats use a proprietary 4-bolt pattern on the bottom of the shoe and require an adapter for 3-hole shoes, which is what these shoes and 99% of the other shoes on the market are. For a hot minute there in the late 2000s, almost every shoe company was making a Speedplay shoe to eliminate that adapter, but that doesn't seem to be the case anymore, with only Lake and maybe one other making 4-hole shoes. I have to admit, I did not miss installing Speedplay cleats on 3-bolt shoes. I did that hundreds of times during my days as a bike fitter, and installing these cleats brought back all of the things that frustrated me. Too many small screws, too much metal, too many layers and adapters, and a loss of that great stack height they talk about because the adapter's in the way. I will say, however, that the new walkable cleat cover is a really nice touch because they provide a small aerodynamic gain while massively improving my ability to walk around, whether at home or out on the road or in a gravel parking lot. They also keep the inside of the cleat slightly elevated from the road surface, which keeps dirt and grime out of the cleat. And that's important because if you get as much as a grain of sand in here, it can start to creak and squeak and make noise that you don't want to hear. You got to keep these things really clean, and a drop of dry lube like Silka's Super Secret once a week is highly recommended. Once I got the cleat position dialed in, it didn't take long to remember how to clip in and out of these. And while the cleats were pretty stiff for the first few rides, after a few hundred miles, they broke in nicely and it became easier to clip in. If you've never used Speedplay before, it's an interesting sensation. When you clip in, you'll notice the float is slick and smooth. It feels slippery, kind of like walking on ice, which can take some getting used to at first. And to be honest, I wanted to not like them. I tried really hard to not like them, but they're actually great. With a nice set of carbon-soled shoes, you get solid power transfer, and I didn't experience any discomfort or hot spots on 3 to 4 hour road or even gravel rides. But for me, the Ultegra pedals are a totally different ballgame. The cleat floats around for sure, but it's not as slippery and as fluid as the Zeros, which is one of the other quirky things I kind of dislike about the Zeros. And with the wider platform, you can absolutely feel the difference when you clip in. It does feel more solid and you feel way more connected to the bike. Yeah, the single-sided entry is slightly harder to clip into initially, but it's something you can master pretty quickly. And if you look at the total weight of the system, cleat plus hardware, the Shimano's come out to be about 70 grams lighter than the Zeros. And as an added bonus, the Ultegras are $30 cheaper and in my opinion, a much better choice for road riders at all levels of experience. Personally, I'm up to like 4 or 5 sets of these on the bikes I have at home. I actually scored a set for $10 at a garage sale once, and even after 2 really good months on the Speedplays, I just can't find any good reason to convert back. Honestly, if we were riding along and you asked me which one you should buy, I'd preach the gospel of Shimano to you without hesitation. Now sit tight while we bring in Jess for a quick Q&A.
Thank you so much, Andy, for talking about that. I know deciding what pedals to run has been a big thing that I have not been able to figure out, so this is very helpful for me in my personal cycling journey. But I do have a few more questions for you.
Sure.
A lot of pedals have different free spin to them. So like for anyone that doesn't know, it's how much your pedal can spin before you clip in, that kind of thing. And so I'm curious, between the 2 pedals, which has more free spin and what would be better, more or less free spin?
Well, so Speedplay doesn't have really any. It's kind of stiff, right? But it doesn't matter because they're 2-sided. So anytime you hit it, right, it's gonna be on the right side and you're gonna clip in. So the way Shimano achieves that is by weighting the pedal so that this is always sort of facing upwards. Let me grab the other pedal here so I can illustrate this. And so that when you go to attach like this part of the cleat, you go to kick it and find it, it grabs it easily, and then boom, you clip in. So you can see this does spin a little easier, but that's because it has to be weighted and point up to make it easier for you to get in. Speedplay is usually the easier one to clip in and out of because you got 2 sides, and it's, you got a better batting average with 2 sides than just one.
Awesome. And so then another question I have, does the position of your cleat impact the hot spots that you get? Because I know that's something I've been struggling with.
Yep.
And I know it doesn't necessarily mean that it's from the pedal.
The short answer is yes. Your cleat position can 100% cause hot spots. It can be too far forward, too far back. You can be too far one way or the other. And it's really going to depend on kind of the dynamics of your pedal stroke and how much power you put in and where it is. So short answer, yeah. Long answer, kind of depends on a lot of factors.
And then my last question for you is, which pedal could you put down more power with?
Great question. It's kind of the $1 million question, isn't it?
Yes.
So you can put down, 100, 200, 300 watts on this pedal is the same as 300 watts on this pedal. Again, I don't have a wind tunnel. I don't have anything to really test this. It's purely kind of anecdotal based on 30 years of doing this. But the Shimano with the wider platform, the wider cleat, the lower stack height, you can feel the bike rocketing forward faster and better than you can with a Speedplay. More of those 300 watts feel like they're getting through the pedal into the crank and into the back wheels for me with the Shimano than with Speedplay.
Good to know. You've really convinced me with the Shimano right there. Yeah. So thank you for that. Thanks for watching, guys. If you have any questions that I didn't already ask, please feel free to ask them in the comments below or reach out to one of our Gearheads. Information on how to do that will be in the description. If you liked this video, give us a thumbs up and subscribe. We'll see you next time.